Welcome, fellow game enthusiasts, to the Retro Roundup.
Whoa! Who are you? Pat, that's Mr. B from Mr. B's ukulele channel. Yeah, Classic FM's Teacher of the Year. Runner-up, don't you know? Mr. B is here to help us celebrate our YouTube channel hitting 500 subscribers. As always, coming at you live via videotape from the Orbital broadcast bunker. We are here to guide you through nostalgic time warp, where we dive into the best, the boldest and the occasional bizarrest games that last 30 years. The games that kept us up till 3 AM hurling controllers and questioning our own life choices.
Speak for yourself.
Yeah, back in my day we had games like Ludo, and no one threw Ludo across the room.
Speak for yourself.
Today we'll have you wishing you still had your Super Nintendo, your Sega Saturn and maybe even your first generation PlayStation handy. We're looking back at 8 incredible titles starting way back in 1994 with a little dark fantasy and some high speed action. Heretic released in 1994 by Raven Software. It is a dark fantasy first-person shooter built on a modified version of ID Software's Doom engine. Often considered a pioneer of its genre, Heretic stood out for its atmospheric design, fluid controls and innovative gameplay mechanics, such as an inventory system that allowed players to store and use power-ups at their convenience. This marked a departure from Doom's more straightforward, immediate power-up use. Set in a grim world overrun by demonic forces, the game's aesthetic embraced gothic and medieval themes, blending horror and magic to its core design. It features intricate level design, traps and puzzles, challenging players to think strategically whilst blasting their way through hordes of nightmarish creatures. Heretic was praised for its graphics and environmental details, utilising advanced lighting and texture mapping to create a more immersive experience. Sound design was equally impactful, with eerie ambient noises and unique sound effects that heightened the tension. The game became a cult classic and laid the foundation for its sequels, including Hexen Beyond Heretic. Its success paved the way for other dark fantasy shooters and expanded the possibilities of what a first-person shooter could achieve in terms of storytelling and setting. Story Heretic takes place in dark and foreboding world of Parthios, a land corrupted by the malevolent influence of 3 demonic beings known as Serpent Raiders. These malevolent entities, each commanding legions of twisted creatures, spread chaos and subjugate entire realms to their will. In bleak setting, player assumes the role of Corvus, a lone elf from the Sadi, a race branded as heretics due to their resistance against the Serpent Raiders' reign. As Corvus, player embarks upon a quest of vengeance and freedom, armed only with a mythical staff and his indomitable will. The game's narrative is primarily conveyed through its atmosphere and visual storytelling, with cryptic messages and subtle environmental clues that hint at the desolation wrought by Serpent Raiders. Each level reflects the twisted architecture and corrupt nature of land, featuring haunted catacombs, crumbling fortresses and labyrinthian dungeons. This grim backdrop creates a sense of isolation and hopelessness, reinforcing the player's role as a solitary force standing against overwhelming evil. Story's dark tone and ambitious lore leave much to imagination, allowing players to piece together the fate of Parthios as they delve deeper into the abyss. Heretic builds on the foundation of the Doom engine, enhancing it with several notable features that set it apart from other shooters of its era. The game introduced an inventory system allowing players to pick up and store items for later use, adding a layer of strategy. This system includes power-ups like the Tome of Power, which temporarily boosts the power of weapons, and the Morph Ovum, which humorously transforms enemies into helpless chickens. Players wield an array of fantastic weapons, from the basic Elven Wand to the devastating Hellstaff, each with unique properties and effects when powered up. The level design emphasizes exploration and environmental interaction, featuring hidden passages, teleporters and puzzles that often require backtracking and keen observation. Enemy types are varied, ranging from fast-moving golems to flying gargoyles, each demanding different tactics. Additionally, the game's use of dynamic lighting, texture mapping and environmental effects like wind and water currents enhanced a sense of immersion. Overall, Heretic's gameplay rewards both quick reflexes and thoughtful item management, making it a compelling blend of action and strategy that influenced the design of later first-person shooters and dark fantasy games.
Upon its release, Heretic was met with positive reviews for its atmospheric presentation and engaging gameplay. Critics praised its innovative use of an inventory system, which was a significant departure from the linear, item-based mechanics of Doom. The game's dark fantasy theme, combined with its high level of detail and eerie soundtrack, garnered it it a loyal fanbase. While it did not achieve the same commercial success as Doom, Heretic carved out its own niche, becoming a cult classic among fans of the genre. Its success led to a sequel, Hexen Beyond Heretic, which further expanded on its formula with character classes and hub-based exploration. Over time, Heretic has been recognised for its role in diversifying the first-person shooter game, introducing more complex narrative and gameplay elements. It influenced later titles that blended shooting mechanics with fantasy settings like Painkiller and Dark Messiah of Might and Magic. The game's modifiable Doom engine also made it popular among modders, contributing to its longevity and continued relevance in the retro gaming community. Heretic's legacy endures as a testament to the creative possibilities that arise when developers experiment with established genre conventions.
Right, imagine Doom, but instead of demons from Mars, you're blasting away gargoyles, undead knights and dark wizards. It's a game that didn't just aim for jump scares, but aimed to transport you into a cursed medieval realm.
Nothing says a weekend of relaxation like getting ambushed by a flying ghoul, but credit where it's due, Heretic's inventory system was a real game changer. Quite literally, put some power-ups in your back pocket for a rainy day. Or a rainy dungeon, as it were.
Speaking of rain, did you know that badgers don't mind getting their paws wet? Keeps them cool, you see. It's important for when they're burrowing, and they are very good at burrowing.
I thought you just made the tea, Keith. I'm not sure that badgers would fare well in Heretic, but thanks to that nugget of knowledge, while he goes and gets the kettle on, let's keep the pace going with... The Need for Speed, NFS, is a racing game released in 1994 for the 3DO interactive multiplayer console and later ported to several other platforms including the Sega Saturn, PlayStation and MS-DOS. Developed by Pioneer Productions and published by Electronic Arts, the game was inspired by the high-octane performance cars featured in Road and Track magazine. The Need for Speed stood out for its realistic approach to racing, focusing on delivering an authentic driving experience that was rare in video games at the time. It featured detailed car models, real-world physics and sound effects recorded from actual cars, providing a level of immersion that sets it apart from other racing games of its era. Players could choose from a selection of sports cars, including the Ferrari 512 TR, Lamborghini Diablo VT and the Dodge Viper RT10, to race on various scenic tracks. The game's blend of simulation and arcade-style gameplay appealed to both car enthusiasts and casual players, paving the way for a long-running franchise that has become synonymous with the racing genre. The success of The Need for Speed established it as a foundational title in Electronic Arts' portfolio, leading to numerous sequels and spin-offs over the following decades.
Unlike many modern racing games, The Need for Speed had a loose narrative structure, opting instead to immerse players in the world of high-speed racing with a focus on car culture. There was no central story or character arc. Instead, the game's setting and presentation revolved around the thrill of driving the most powerful cars in the world. Players were treated to detailed descriptions of each vehicle, including their history and performance stats, narrated by a suave voiceover that mimicked the style of Road and Track magazine reviews. Each race was set against a backdrop of picturesque environments, ranging from coastal highways to mountainous roads. These locations, like the city and alpine tracks, were designed to showcase the capabilities of the car while providing a sense of speed and scale. The inclusion of police chases in some races added an extra layer of excitement and tension, as players had to outrun law enforcement whilst maintaining control of their high-performance vehicles. The emphasis on realism combined with the scenic setting and engaging atmosphere helped The Need for Speed establish itself as a racing game that prioritised immersion over traditional storytelling. The Need for Speed introduced a unique blend of arcade racing with simulation elements, providing players with a more authentic driving experience. Game's standout feature was a detailed handling model, which differed for each vehicle, taking into account factors like acceleration, braking and grip. This was complemented by in-depth car descriptions, allowing players to get a sense of each car's strengths and weaknesses before taking it to track. Players could choose from 3 main modes: single race, time trial and head-to-head, with the latter allowing for direct competition with another player. Each mode included a variety of tracks that offered different challenges, from tight corners and elevation changes to long straightaways that tested top speed. Another key feature were inclusion of traffic and police presence on certain tracks, which created additional hazards and the opportunity for daring manoeuvres. The use of cockpit view and rear view mirrors added to the game's realism, encouraging players to pay attention to their surroundings. This combination of simulation-like controls, varied track design and the thrill of avoiding police pursuits made the Need for Speed a groundbreaking entry in the racing genre. The Need for Speed received critical acclaim upon its release. Praised for its realistic car physics, graphics and sound design, reviewers lauded the game's attention to detail, especially the realistic audio recordings of the engine and the physics-based car handling, which provided a sense of authenticity not found in other racing titles at the time. The game's blend of arcade action and simulation made it accessible to a wide audience, allowing both casual players and car enthusiasts to enjoy the experience. Its success on the 3DO led to ports on other consoles and computers, where it continued to garner positive reviews. The Need for Speed's legacy lies in its influence on the racing genre as a whole. It established a foundation for a franchise that would go on to explore various subgenres, from street racing to open-world exploration. The introduction of realistic car models, environments and police chases set a new standard for future racing games. The series' longevity and evolution over the decades are testament to the original's innovative approach. Today, the Need for Speed is remembered as a classic that changed the landscape of racing games, influencing countless titles that followed.
The Need for Speed. The very first game to make us feel like we were actually behind the wheel of a Lamborghini. Back when the closest most of us got to a Lamborghini was a Matchbox car.
Speak for yourself. You see, you don't like it, do you, when it's coming at you? Right. Now, Need for Speed, or as I like to call it, Need for Cursing Every Bloody Corner, is where virtual racing all began. Now, this oddly calming narrator, that made me want to drive like a lunatic, even more.
Yeah, I've never quite got the hang of racing, but I'm a mean driver though when it comes to shopping trolleys. I've been banned from many a Tesco's for drag racing down the seasoning aisle. Speaking of racing though, did you know that a properly brewed cup of tea takes exactly 5 minutes to reach optimum temperature? Not this one though, this is cold.
That's just about the time it takes to sit down with a good ukulele and practice your chords. Now who's up some nursery rhymes? Before we fast forward to the video games of 1999.
Hang on. You mean we're not talking about Tekken, the 1994 arcades classic? It was a groundbreaking 3D fighting game that helped define the genre.
Who let him in? If you've been at me biscuits again. Bertie is quite right though. The story of Tekken centres around the King of Iron Fist tournament that is organised by Heihachi Mishima, the powerful head of the Mishima Zaibotsu. Now the tournament attracts fighters from around the world, each with their own unique backstory and motivations for entering.
Keith, we've told you before, no one but you likes Garibaldis. But while I'm here, I might as well also point out Tekken introduced a revolutionary 3D fighting system, allowing players to sidestep and manoeuvre around their opponents.
Lads, can we get this back on track? I'm terribly sorry about this, Mr. B. Can I interest you in a Garibaldi?
Sorry, I didn't mean to disturb you. I'll be on my way. Tekken, by the way, was highly praised for its innovative gameplay, impressive 3D graphics and smooth character animations.
Now, fast forwarding to 1999.
Sorry, just thought I should point out you missed out King's Field on the PlayStation as well. King's Field, released in 1994 for the PlayStation, is a first-person action RPG developed by From Software. It is often considered one of the earliest examples of a 3D dungeon crawler on consoles. The game is set on the mysterious island of Melanat, where players navigate through dark corridors and expansive caves filled with dangerous creatures and traps. Known for its slow-paced, methodical gameplay and unforgiving difficulty, King's Field requires players to be cautious and deliberate in both combat and exploration. The game features an atmospheric, oppressive setting with a minimal HUD and no in-game map, enhancing its sense of isolation. While King's Field received mixed reviews for its steep learning curve and clunky controls, it is recognised for its innovation and has since become a cult classic. It laid the groundwork for From Software's later titles, such as the acclaimed Demon's Souls and Dark Souls series, influencing the studio's design philosophy of challenging gameplay and immersive environments. That game's going for a mint at CEX right now. Imagine how many ukuleles you could buy with that money.
How come he got a voiceover?
Now,
let's fast forward to 1999. And a game that put real life simulators on the map. It had you sweeping floors, feeding cats and asking the same 3 people where to find sailors. I forgot you came with us to the Dog and Duck last week. No, I'm talking about...
Father!
Shenmue released in 1999 for the Sega Dreamcast, and it is an action-adventure game developed by Sega AM2 and directed by legendary game designer Yu Suzuki. Often cited as one of the most ambitious projects of its time, Shenmue is considered a pioneer of the open world genre. The game is set in a fully realised interactive 3D environment, where players can explore, interact with NPCs and engage in various side activities. Shenmue was groundbreaking for its use of real-time weather effects, day-night cycles and its focus on realistic mundane tasks. Its high production cost, reportedly over $47 million, made it one of the most expensive games of its era. Whilst it didn't achieve commercial success comparable to its budget, Shenmue is celebrated for its attention to detail, narrative depth and immersive world building. The game gained a dedicated following and is credited with influencing the design of future open world and narrative driven games like Grand Theft Auto and Yakuza. Despite its commercial shortcomings, Shenmue remains a cult classic, known for pushing the boundaries of what a video game could achieve in terms of realism and storytelling. Shenmue is set in 1986 Yokosuka, Japan and follows the story of 18-year-old martial artist Ryo Azuki. Game begins with Ryo witnessing the murder of his father at the hands of a mysterious man named Lan Di. Consumed by a desire for revenge, Ryo embarks on a quest to find Lan Di and uncover the reasons behind his father's death. The narrative unfolds in a semi-open world that authentically recreates the look and feel of a small Japanese town during the 1980s. Players can explore Ryo's hometown and interact with residents and delve into the day-to-day life of its inhabitants. The game's detailed setting includes shops, homes and businesses, each with their distinct purpose and schedule, giving players a sense of being part of a living, breathing community. The story is rich with themes of honour, family and self-discovery. As Ryo learns more about his father's past and the intricate world of martial arts and criminal organisations, the game's episodic nature was designed to be part of a large saga, though the full story took nearly 2 decades to be fully realised across multiple instalments. Shenmue features a blend of exploration, combat and quick-time events, QTEs. Players guide Ryo through his day-to-day activities, which include speaking to NPCs, investigating clues and performing odd jobs to earn money. The game's innovative use of QTEs, where players must press specific buttons within a time limit, add an element of tension and interaction during key story moments and action sequences. Shenmue also incorporates a free-form combat system, reminiscent of the Virtua Fighter series, allowing players to engage in hand-to-hand fights with enemies using a variety of martial arts techniques. Beyond the main storyline, players can engage in numerous side activities, such as playing arcade games, collecting capsule toys, or practicing martial arts moves. The real-time clock and weather system affects NPCs' schedules and available activities, making time management an integral part of the experience. This attention to mundane detail created a unique and immersive gameplay loop that encouraged exploration and interaction within the world. Whilst its pace may have felt slow for some, the game's emphasis on realism and routine provided an experience unlike any other game of its era. Shenmue received critical acclaim for its ambitious design, detailed world building and compelling narrative. Critics praised its cinematic approach, innovative use of QTEs and the lifelike behaviour of NPCs. However, opinions were mixed regarding its slow pacing and emphasis on mundane tasks, which some players found tedious. Despite its positive reception, Shenmue underperformed commercially, selling around 1.2 million copies, far below expectations given the substantial development costs. Nevertheless, it gained a cult following and influenced the design of later open world and narrative driven games. Shenmue is often credited as the precursor to modern open world titles, setting the stage for games that emphasise exploration, environmental storytelling and player choice. Its legacy is evident in franchises like Yakuza, which adopted and refined many of its gameplay mechanics and thematic elements. The game's influence is also seen in the broader acceptance of interactive storytelling and immersive world building in video games. Over time, Shenmue has been re-evaluated as a landmark title, and its dedicated fanbase eventually led to the release of a long-awaited sequel, Shenmue 3, in 2019, cementing its place in gaming history.
Don't ask about sailors. Yeah, that never gets old. But what's fascinating is how Shenmue felt like you were living a second life, like a second incredibly slow and mundane life. I guess it was groundbreaking for the time, for the patient types at least.
Yeah, I remember this one. I remember watching my old grandson play it. Yes, he looked like he was having a chat with everyone in town. I'm telling you, you didn't do this much chatting in Pong.
With every rally in Pong, there's a tiny concert happening. Each ping and pong is a musical note being played. So if Pong were a musical instrument, it could very well be a ukulele duet with its cheerful plinks and plonks and mimicking the playful, repetitive sounds of the game.
Now, imagine trying to play Pong on the ukulele. Each strum changes the angle of the paddle. It's like adding a bit of beachy flair to an arcade classic. I think things are getting out of hand, chaps. I mean, can we focus on video games from 1999? Games like...
Stay! Sergeant Bryant says you gotta collect that vehicle for...
Urban Chaos, released in 1999 for PC, was developed by Mucky Foot Productions and published by Eidos Interactive. It is an action-adventure game with a blend of third-person combat, platforming and exploration elements. The game was notable for being one of the early titles to combine open-world gameplay with urban environments. Players assumed the role of Darcy Stern, a rookie police officer tasked with cleaning up the crime-ridden streets of a near-future city. Urban Chaos stood out for its then advanced 3D graphics, offering detailed environments and character models. The game featured dynamic weather, destructible objects, and interactive NPCs, which enhanced its sense of immersion. While it didn't achieve the commercial success of other action-adventure titles from the late 90s, Urban Chaos was praised for its ambitious design, its mix of combat and exploration, and its gritty urban setting. It represented Mucky Foot Productions' first foray into game development, showcasing their potential to create immersive, open-ended gameplay experiences.
The story of Urban Chaos is set in the year 2000 in a dystopian, crime-infested city on the brink of collapse. The player takes on the role of Darcy Stern, a tough but inexperienced police officer in the Union City Police Department. As chaos unfolds, a violent gang known as the Wildcats begin to terrorise the streets, threatening to overthrow the city's fragile order. Darcy is tasked with investigating the gang's activities, whilst uncovering a deeper conspiracy that ties corrupt officials and dangerous criminals to a looming urban apocalypse. Throughout the game, Darcy is joined by Roper, a vigilante who assists her in taking down the criminal elements plaguing the city. The gritty urban landscape of Union City is divided into different districts, each with its own challenges and atmosphere, from slums overrun by crime to more affluent but equally dangerous areas. The dark urban setting, combined with the game's crime-fighting narrative, gives a grim tone that reflects the societal concerns of the late 90s, such as inner-city violence and corruption. Urban Chaos combines third-person action with exploration and platforming mechanics. As Darcy Stern, players must complete various missions that involve combat, rescuing civilians, gathering evidence, and apprehending criminals. The game offers a mix of hand-to-hand combat and gunplay, with Darcy able to fight enemies using martial arts or equip a variety of weapons. The game also features vehicular sections where players can commandeer vehicles to pursue criminals or travel through the city. Urban Chaos encourages exploration, with hidden collectibles and side missions scattered throughout city districts. Platforming elements also play a key role, as Darcy must often climb buildings, leap between rooftops and navigate the vertical landscape of the city. The AI of both enemies and NPCs were advanced for its time, with NPCs reacting to players' actions and enemies using cover and tactics during combat. The game's dynamic weather and day-night cycle added to the immersive atmosphere, affecting both visibility and behaviour of NPCs. These features made Urban Chaos an ambitious title for its time, blending action, exploration and a narrative-driven experience. Urban Chaos received generally positive reviews upon its release, with critics praising the ambition and depth of its gameplay. The game's urban setting, dynamic weather system and open-ended mission structure were highlighted as standout features, though the controls and combat mechanics were criticised as clunky and difficult to master. Despite not being a massive commercial hit, it's gained a cult following over the years, particularly for its unique blend of exploration and combat. Urban Chaos is often seen as a precursor to later open-world urban crime games, such as the Grand Theft Auto series, which would refine and expand on many of the gameplay elements seen in Mucky Foot's title. The game's focus on a strong female protagonist was also notable for the time, offering a narrative-driven experience in a male-dominated genre. Whilst Urban Chaos didn't spawn any direct sequels, it remains an influential title in the evolution of open-world action games, and its influence can be seen in the design of later titles that combine action, platforming and exploration in urban environments. Urban chaos is what you get when you cross a dystopian London with a rookie cop trying to take down anarchists. Chaos. Now, Urban Chaos was Mucky Foot's first game. It was ambitious, but it was packed with action, and yes, there were a few too many explosions.
Few too many? Lad, Michael Bay called. He wants his budget back.
Hey, oi. I think there's something up with this, lads.
Lads, are you not going to mention The Legend of Dragoon?
No, I hadn't planned on it.
This is why you and Keith are always coming second at the Dog and Duck quiz. No dedication to the classics. Released in 1999 for the PlayStation, Legend of Dragoon is a JRPG developed by Sony Computer Entertainment. The game is set in the fantasy world of Endiness, where players follow Dart, a young warrior, as he embarks on a journey to avenge his village's destruction and uncover ancient secrets involving the mythical dragoons, warriors who wield the power of dragons. The game's combat system features turn-based battles combined with addition mechanics, where timed button presses enhance attacks. Players can also transform into powerful dragoon forms during combat, unleashing magic and enhanced abilities. Though it received mixed reviews at launch, with some criticising its slow pacing and story, it gained a dedicated fanbase for its epic narrative, unique combat system and lush pre-rendered backgrounds. Over time, The Legend of Dragoon has become a cult classic, celebrated for its ambitious scope, memorable characters and deep lore, making it a beloved title in the PlayStation RPG library.
Even he got a voiceover. What is this?
It means we're moving on to 2004, a stellar year for racing and strategy fans alike.
This year should be right up my street. Gran Turismo 4, released in 2004 for the PlayStation 2, is a racing simulation game developed by Polyphony Digital and published by Sony Computer Entertainment. As the fourth main entry in the Gran Turismo series, it aimed to push the boundaries of realism in racing games. The game features over 700 cars from 80 manufacturers, along with more than 50 tracks, including real-world circuits and fictional ones. Gran Turismo 4 is renowned for its attention to detail, offering players the ability to modify and tune vehicles with a high degree of customization. The game introduced new modes, including B-Spec mode, which allows players to manage a race team rather than race themselves. The graphics were widely considered stunning for the time, with realistic lighting, car models and detailed environments. Despite its focus on realism, Gran Turismo 4 also appealed to casual gamers due to its vast content, progression system and variety of events. It became one of the best-selling PlayStation 2 games, continuing the legacy of the Gran Turismo series as a benchmark for racing simulators.
Gran Turismo 4, like its predecessors, does not feature a traditional story mode, but instead focuses on a career mode, where players start with basic vehicles and gradually earn credits to purchase and upgrade better cars. This progression system allows players to participate in a wide variety of events, from amateur races to professional leagues, as well as endurance races that test both skill and strategy. The game is set across a range of environments, from well-known racing circuits like the Nürburgring and Suzuka to fictional tracks like the Deep Forest Raceway. Players also race in city streets, countryside roads and scenic locations around the world. One of the standout settings is the ability to race in locations like the Grand Canyon and coastal highways, which adds a visual variety not typically seen in traditional racing games. Though the game doesn't have a narrative, it offers a deep sense of progression and accomplishment as players unlock more cars, races and tuning opportunities, simulating the experience of a professional driver's journey from humble beginnings to racing in high-stakes global competitions. Gran Turismo 4 is known for its deep and realistic driving mechanics, offering a true-to-life racing experience. The game features a physics engine that takes into account factors such as weight distribution, tyre grip and aerodynamics, making each car feel distinct. Players can tune and modify their cars, from adjusting gear ratios to tweaking suspension settings to maximise performance. The gameplay is divided between A-Spec and B-Spec modes. In A-Spec mode, players drive directly, while B-Spec allows players to manage AI-controlled races by issuing commands such as pace adjustments and overtaking. Another notable feature is the game's driving licence system, which requires players to complete a series of challenges to unlock certain events. Gran Turismo 4 also introduced photo mode, where players could take high-resolution shots of their car in various picturesque locations. The inclusion of over 700 vehicles, a wide array of events, from drag racing to rallying, ensured that players had a variety of challenges. The game's robust multiplayer allowed for split-screen racing, adding to its replayability. Gran Turismo 4 was met with critical acclaim upon its release, surprise surprise, with praise directed at the unprecedented attention to detail, the massive selection of cars, and the realistic physics. Many reviewers hailed it as the most complete racing simulator of its time. The visuals, especially the car models and the environments, were considered groundbreaking, pushing the limits of what the PlayStation 2 could achieve. While some critics pointed out the absence of online multiplayer, promised during development but ultimately scrapped, the game's other features such as the B-Spec mode and photo mode more than made up for it. Gran Turismo 4 sold over 11 million copies, don't you know, making it one of the best-selling titles on the PlayStation 2. Its influence on the racing genre is significant, setting new standards for realism and attention to detail in simulation games. The game inspired many future racing titles and solidified the Gran Turismo series' reputation as the real driving simulator, helping to establish the genre as a serious pursuit for both fans of video games and car enthusiasts alike. Gran Turismo 4, the driving simulator that gave us more cars than we knew what to do with, perfect for aspiring gearheads.
Yes, Gran Turismo 4 was one of 4 PlayStation 2 titles released that could support 1080i HD through the use of component cables, and an online test version was released through PlayStation Underground about a year after the final release. It started the player off with 110 million credits and all the cars in the Gran Turismo mode, alongside the online capabilities.
But it's not like Tony's book though, is it, lad? I spent hours in the game personally. I never won a race, but I did get surprisingly good at photography. I didn't have so many choices when I got my first motor. It was either a Mini or a different coloured Mini. Simpler times.
Rohan lies at the centre of Middle-earth. These horselands have
The
long
Lord of the
been
Rings, The Battle for Middle-earth, released for PC and is a real-time strategy game developed by EA Los Angeles and based on Peter Jackson's acclaimed film trilogy. The game allows players to control the forces of good or evil in massive battles set across iconic locations from J.R. Tolkien's Middle-earth. With its license from both the films and the books, Battle for Middle-earth incorporates a rich variety of characters, factions and environments, immersing players in the epic fantasy world. The game features large-scale battles, resource management and base building, with playable factions including Gondor, Rohan, Isengard and Mordor. Notably, it included heroes from the films such as Aragorn, Gandalf and Saruman, who have special abilities and can turn the tide of battle. Battle for Middle-earth was praised for its impressive visual design, cinematic presentation and faithful recreation of the film's epic battles. The game was well received amongst fans of both RTS games and Tolkien's work, offering a blend of strategy and action that would appeal to a wider audience. The story of Battle of Middle-earth follows the epic events of the Lord of the Rings trilogy, covering key moments from the War of the Ring. The game offers 2 campaigns. One for the Forces of Good, where players lead the armies of Gondor and Rohan in the fight against Sauron, and one for Evil, where they command the legions of Mordor and Isengard to crush the free people of Middle-earth. The campaign takes players to iconic locations such as Helm's Deep, Minas Tirith, Isengard and the Black Gate. Players can relive pivotal battles like the Siege of Helm's Deep and the Battle of Pelennor Fields. The story is largely driven by the film's narrative, with cutscenes and voiceovers taken directly from movie to enhance the immersion. The detailed maps and environments, along with familiar characters and units allowing players to feel like they are participating in the grand conflict of Middle-earth, reinforce the game's epic scale and sense of adventure. The Battle for Middle-earth combines traditional RTS mechanics with elements unique to its setting. Players build and manage bases, gather resources such as lumber and command points, and train armies to fight against their enemies. The game features 4 distinct factions: Gondor, Rohan, Isengard and Mordor, each with its own units, heroes and strategies. Units include everything from your basic infantry to siege weapons and powerful monsters like trolls and Mummikil. Heroes play a pivotal role in the game. Characters like Aragorn, Gandalf and the Witch King can lead armies and use special abilities to change the course of battles. In addition to the standard RTS gameplay, Battle for Middle-earth emphasises large-scale engagements with hundreds of units on the battlefield, creating a cinematic experience reminiscent of the film's epic battle scenes. The terrain and environments are crucial to strategy, as players can use hills and choke points to their advantage. The game's skirmish mode allows for custom battles, whilst multiplayer offers both competitive and cooperative modes for up to 8 players.
The Battle for Middle-earth received generally positive reviews upon release, praised for its cinematic presentation, faithful adaptation of the film's aesthetic, and engaging large-scale battles. The game's visuals, especially the scale and detail of the battle scenes, were a standout feature, successfully capturing the epic feel of the movies. However, some critics noted that the gameplay could be overly simplistic compared to other RTS games of the time, lacking depth in terms of resource management and unit control. Despite this, the game was a commercial success and developed a dedicated fanbase, especially among Tolkien enthusiasts. Its blend of action, strategy and story-driven content set it apart from more traditional RTS games. The Battle for Middle-earth helped inspire future RTS titles, with its focus on cinematic gameplay and large-scale battles. It also spawned a sequel, The Battle for Middle-earth 2, which expanded on the original's formula with new factions, units and a more complex strategic layer. Even years later, the game remains a beloved classic among fans of both the RTS genre and Middle-earth.
Press on! Be on guard! Strike forward! Hide us from the mark! Hold on!
The Lord of the Rings, The Battle for Middle-earth, an RTS that let you command massive armies. I'll never forget the first time I sent a horde of Rohirrim charging into a sea of orcs. It was like watching cinema unfold on my tiny bedroom TV.
That's just a shame they didn't include any tea-drinking hobbits. Now that's the kind of strategy game I could get behind. Finally, 2014.
These games aren't retro.
I know, but it's surprising that they are now 10 years old.
The Talos Principle, released for PC by Croatian developer Crow Team. It's a first-person puzzle game that blends complex philosophical themes with intricate puzzle mechanics. The game tasks players with solving a series of environmental puzzles using various tools such as connectors, fans and lasers to unlock new areas and advance the narrative. What sets the Talos Principle apart is its deep exploration of existential and philosophical questions, addressing themes like artificial intelligence, consciousness and the nature of humanity. The game features a narrative that unfolds through terminals and audio logs, engaging players in thought-provoking conversations about their place in the universe. Its serene and beautifully crafted environments, which include ancient ruins, temples and futuristic landscapes, add a contemplative atmosphere to the puzzle-solving experience. The game received critical acclaim for its unique combination of challenging puzzles and intellectual depth, making it a standout title in the puzzle genre. Talos Principle is set in a mysterious simulated world where player controls an unnamed humanoid robot guided by a disembodied voice known as Elohim. A godlike figure, Elohim tasks the player with solving puzzles to prove their worth and ascend to a higher plane of existence. As player navigates through game's various environments ranging from ancient Egyptian ruins to lush gardens and sci-fi landscapes, they uncover terminals containing logs, audio recordings and philosophical discussions. These logs are written by researchers and AIs from past civilizations, and they hint at the extinction of humanity and the creation of artificial beings in a last-ditch effort to preserve knowledge. Game's story challenges players to question the nature of consciousness, free will and the role of artificial intelligence in a post-human world. The setting is visually striking, blending historical architecture with futuristic technology, creating a reflective space that ties into the game's central themes of existence and purpose. The Talos Principle offers first-person puzzle-solving gameplay, where players use a variety of tools to manipulate the environment. These tools include jammers to disable barriers, connectors to redirect laser beams, fans to move objects, and recording devices to clone past actions. Puzzles are grouped into hubs, with each hub featuring multiple individual challenges, and players must solve these to collect sigils, keys if you will, required to unlock further areas and progress in the game. The puzzles increase in complexity as the game advances, demanding more creative thinking and careful observation. Players also encounter optional hidden puzzles that offer additional narrative insight for those willing to explore further. Beyond the core puzzles, players can interact with computer terminals and engage them in philosophical dialogues, which impacts the game's multiple endings. The combination of brain-teasing puzzles and existential questioning offers a cerebral and immersive gameplay experience, encouraging players to think critically, not only about the puzzles, but also about the deeper implications of the narrative.
The Talos Principle was met with widespread critical acclaim, with praise focused on its challenging puzzle design and philosophical narrative. Critics lauded the game's ability to blend thought-provoking questions with artificial intelligence, free will, and consciousness with engaging gameplay. Its visual design and atmospheric environments were also praised for the serene beauty and the calming contrast they provided to the intellectual complexity of the puzzles. Some compared the game to classic puzzle titles like Portal, while noting its deeper thematic concerns as a distinguishing factor. The Talos Principle quickly became a cult hit among puzzle and science fiction enthusiasts. It received numerous awards for its narrative and design, and its success led to the release of downloadable content, DLC, Road to Gehenna, which further expanded the story. The game has since influenced other puzzle titles, encouraging more developers to explore the intersection of gameplay, mechanics, and intellectual, philosophical themes, making it a significant contribution to the genre.
And may harm you, but do not resent them, for they are my servants, and they challenge you only so that your faith might be strengthened.
The Talos Principle, a game that had us questioning reality and solving puzzles with logic and a few head-scratching moments. It was like if a Rubik's Cube had a philosophical conversation with you.
Great game to play if you fancy an existential crisis. Solve a puzzle, question your existence, rinse and repeat.
Speaking of which, tea! Earl Grey's the perfect remedy for a good brain boggler. Helps clear the mind, you know. And yes, it's scientifically proven, by me anyway.
Speak for yourself. And to close, Elite Dangerous, released for PC by Frontier Development, is a massively multiplayer online space simulation game and the fourth installment in the long-running Elite series. Set in a 1-to-1 scale recreation of the Milky Way galaxy, the game gives players the freedom to explore, trade, mine, engage in combat, and take on missions within an expansive open-ended universe. Players control a customizable spacecraft, travelling between star systems, space stations and planets whilst navigating economical, political and combat challenges. The game emphasises realism with complex flight mechanics, detailed ship management and Newtonian physics. One of the standout features is the game's persistent online universe, where player actions can influence the galaxy's dynamic economy and power structures. Despite being multiplayer focused, players can also play solo. Elite Dangerous is noted for its impressive scale, stunning visuals and immersive sound design. The game has been expanded over the years through numerous updates and expansions, including planetary landings and on-foot exploration. Elite Dangerous is set in year 3300 in a vast open galaxy where humanity is spread across thousands of star systems. The setting includes three major superpowers, Federation, Empire and the Alliance, all vying for control and influence. The game's galaxy features over 40 billion star systems, which many are based on real astronomical data and others are procedurally generated. Players take on the role of a starship pilot, starting out with a basic ship and a few credits, choosing their own path in a vast, politically charged galaxy. The game's story unfolds in background through in-game events, political power struggles and community-driven narratives. Player-driven factions can rise to power and influence galactic politics, whilst major events such as return of alien Thargoid race add significant lore to the game. Though the narrative is not delivered in a traditional linear fashion, it emerges organically through game's dynamic systems and the interactions between players, NPC factions and the galactic superpowers. The gameplay in Elite Dangerous is open-ended and driven by player choice, offering multiple paths such as exploration, trading, bounty hunting, mining and piracy. Players control various spacecraft, each of which can be outfitted and customized to fit their preferred style of play. The game features a deep, realistic fighting model that takes into account factors like inertia, gravitational pull and fuel management. Now, travel between star systems involves supercruise and hyperspace jumps, and players must also manage docking procedures at space stations and outposts. Combat is a major aspect of the game, with dogfight mechanics, complex weapon loadouts and strategy playing key roles. Now, in addition to combat, players can engage in trading, buying goods in one system and selling them on for profit in another, or exploring uncharted systems, scanning planets and stars for valuable data. Now, the game also includes multiplayer elements, where players can join up in wings for cooperative missions, or engage in PvP combat. The persistent nature of the universe means that player actions such as supporting a faction or participating in a community event can have lasting consequences on the galaxy's economy and politics.
Elite Dangerous received positive reviews for its ambitious scale, detailed simulation and stunning visuals. The sheer size of the game's universe and the freedom it offered were major points of praise, as players could spend hours exploring uncharted space or participating in dynamic galactic events. The game's realism, particularly in its flight and physics model, was also highlighted. However, some critics noted the steep learning curve in the game's somewhat sparse content at launch, particularly in terms of mission variety and narrative engagement. Over time, through major expansions like Horizons, which introduced planetary landings, and Odyssey, which added on-foot exploration, the game expanded significantly, addressing many of the earlier criticisms. Elite Dangerous has had a lasting influence on the space simulation genre, serving as a modern benchmark for games in the genre. Its success helped revitalise interest in space exploration games, inspiring a new wave of titles and maintaining a loyal player base that continues to grow as the game evolves. Elite Dangerous, taking the spaceflight sim to a whole new level. You could explore the galaxy, trade goods, and become a space pirate. It was like Star Wars, but with more spreadsheets.
I spent more time staring at the navigation screen than actually flying anywhere. But once you're out there among the stars, it's like, well, it's quite lonely, and I actually quite enjoyed it, actually. A bit like a badger in a vast field. They're like a bit of solitude, quite peaceful creatures.
Oh, you know about badgers. Do you know Benji? I have to ask, Mr. B, what are you up to over there?
Oh, just tuning up my trusty ukulele. When you're out there in the vast expanse of space, exploring galaxies and Elite Dangerous, you need something to calm the nerves. Nothing like a bit of strumming to keep the old heart steady after narrowly escaping a space pirate or two.
Because when I'm flying light years away from civilization, my first thought is always, oh God, where is me ukulele? Must be why I'm crashing into all these asteroids.
Oh, I'd pay to see that. But you're onto something, Mr. B. Imagine if you were out there mining asteroids and suddenly, badgers. Space-faring badgers with tiny spacesuits digging away like they're on an interstellar mission for the ultimate rare ore.
Badgers. Just think, they'd be perfect for the job, wouldn't they? Natural-born diggers. I bet they'd find the rarest minerals in half the time. All whilst humming a little ukulele tune. Gotta keep your spirits high out there in the black.
I tell you what, if I ever see a badger with a ukulele mining an asteroid, I will personally buy a pint for the whole galaxy. Before this all gets too wacky, let's bring this month's retro review to a close. We've looked at 8 games that define their retrospective years and brought countless hours of joy, frustration and triumph. Whether you're a collector or just someone looking to relive a bit of gaming history, these titles are sure to strike a chord.
Or give you flashbacks to your rage-quitting days.
Or make you want a nice cuppa and maybe a chat with a badger, if you're lucky.
If you've enjoyed this blast from the past, don't forget to give us a thumbs up and hit that subscribe button, and ring the bell to join us for more journeys through the golden age of gaming. Drop us a comment if there's a game you'd like us to cover next time. I just want to say a big thank you to Mr. B, N-Gage and Pixel Paul for being good sports and helping me make this video. It was part of Kohigh Mathy's 500 subscriber month of specials to say thank you to all of you who have subscribed to the channel and helped us reach our first proper YouTube milestone.
Here's to 1K.
Before we go, Pixel Paul would like to leave us with this.
In a country of free speech, why are there phone bills?
Cheerio!
See you
See you soon.